I would say about 50% of the horses I get in training are already messed up uh, for working a cow when they come, and the owners don't understand why. I'm gonna point out the mistakes that cause a horse to be messed up on a cow, dread cattle, the whole deal. And this is pretty important because so many people do it. All right, so let's get started here. Let me start the video. And you can see now we're just kind of warming her up. It's just kind of a lackadaisical, my body's real relaxed. I got my hand low. Her head is low. Now, she started out wanting to be a really high-headed horse, and so I had to really be careful to teach her to carry her head level. And sometimes she goes way down there, like right there. I don't necessarily want it down that far, but better too low than too high. Move the body to the left. Slack the reins. Direct rein, indirect rein, outside foot, press, press, press. Okay, so right there what I did is I positioned her nose with the direct rein and brought the front end with an indirect rein against her neck. An indirect rein is basically you'd call it a neck rein. And then my outside foot, press, release to bring the rib cage. On these turns, the turns need to start nose first. So you bring the nose with the direct rein, you bring the shoulders with the indirect rein, and you bring the rib cage with your outside foot. We'll start it back up here. And again, we're keeping things real quiet, real lackadaisical. This time I bent her head to the left. And you see how she wanted to raise her head up right there, and I brought it right back down with a little seesaw on the bit. So right here I got her head bent to the right and taking her body to the left. Now, why am I doing this? The reason I'm doing this is for any event you do, you need to have your horse working with correct form and style. And to put the correct form and style on them, you have to be able to position their body parts. So this is just an exercise that lets me get control of the body parts. See it? All right, there. You see her head stayed up. I went to turn her and her head went up. I shook it right back down with left, right, left, right. Direct rein. Ask for the stop. See, I bring the nose first, then the shoulder. Accelerate with my feet. Quit riding. Back up. Nose first, then the shoulder comes. Let's stop for a second here. So let me explain a big mistake that most non-pros make. I mean, this is so common, and it never enters people's mind. Horses are taught to respond to pressure. So if we put pressure in their mouth to stop, the instant they start to stop, you need to give a release of the reins, and then you can put pressure again and then release. And when they're finished stopping, you need to be releasing the reins, then ask for the turn, bring the nose first, turn, release. Every movement, there has to be a release separating the movements. So many people will stop their horse, keep the reins tight, ask the horse to back up, keep the reins tight, and then turn their horse and keep the reins tight. Well, those people, whenever they go to stop their horse or back their horse up, the horse starts turning because he's confused. There has to be a separation between the movements with slack in the reins. Now, it doesn't have to be a lot of slack. It can just be a split second, but it has to be there. And nobody seems to figure that out. But you watch the stops, the backs, and the turns here. Everything is done with pressure and release. The release of pressure tells the horse he did the right thing. Okay, no release of pressure, he doesn't know if he did it right or not. All right, so let's go on here. Squeeze her up to a trot. Quit riding. See how nice and flat. Now her head went up. I'm taking her head to the side. Direct rein. As soon as she starts to turn, release. Pressure, release. Pressure, release. Turn. Just press, release, press, release. See how comfortable that makes her? She put her head way down. She's doing this in a relaxed mode. Again, I'm backing. Now this time I'm backing her up with her head to the side. Why would I do that? Because when I'm getting ready to work a cow, I need to be able to position her body. And I want to have her head bent in there a little bit looking at the cow when we first get started. So it's important that I can position the head wherever I want. Nice lackadaisical trot. Ask her to drop her pole. That little seesaw of the reins, you see how that brought her pole down? And the way I got that is when I first started riding her, her head was literally up in my face, extremely high-headed. So I'll put a little pressure in their mouth, and if their pole drops even a fraction of an inch, I give them the slack and pet on them. And pretty soon, that means they know that means lower the pole, and they get really relaxed about it. Turn to the right. I'm just using one hand. Still bringing her nose first. See how the left rein is shorter than the right? Taking her nose to the right as I trot. Press, release, press, release, press, release. Head went up, shook it down a little bit. There we go. Slack. Now I'm driving her with my feet, and then I quit riding, quit driving, sit down, ask for the stop. See the separation in the movements there? I stop, slack, turn, slack. Stop, slack, back up, shake her head down, slack, turn, slack. Slack, back up, slack, turn, slack. Reward her for it. All right, now we're going to go bring in the cows. And that was about all the warm-up I felt she needed. Some people will, lope their horse for half an hour before they work a cow. I don't want to have them dependent on that. I want to warm them up, get their muscles nice and loose, get the edge off. But I kind of want them working cattle when they're fresh, so that they'll make mistakes that I can correct those mistakes. Now some people will start a cow. This horse has really only been on cattle a very short period of time, maybe a month. And you normally start out with just one cow in the arena, but she's seen it enough we can put a whole herd in there. So I'm stepping to it to make the cow move. See how nice and relaxed we are? Hands low, start the turn nose first, stop and slack. Cow stops, horse stops, ho. See how low my hands are right here? Encouraging that horse to stay relaxed. Bring her through the turn nose first. Nose first. Stop, slack, turn, slack. Go to the cow to make it move. Direct rein. Stop, slack, turn, slack. Stop, slack. See how that nose comes first? You got to have that. At least at the beginning, you got to have that. You can flatten them out later when they know what they're doing. But when you're just starting them on cattle like this, you need to position their body so they come nose first.
Doesn't matter if it's long, I can chop it up.
Picking up speed. Okay, I'm going to stop for a second here. Okay, right there you saw the cow going faster than my horse. Now, a lot of people would start loping, catch the cow, catch the cow. Well, here's what, when I first start a horse on cattle, I want that horse to be thinking trot. It looks real bad for a horse slow loping with a cow. It looks much better to be trotting fast with an extended trot to catch the cow than it does to be, loping. Now, if the cow's really moving fast, well, then you're forced to hit a lope or a gallop. But in these beginning stages, I want the horse to be thinking the trot is the gait I want him to be in almost all the time. So we're going to go back for another cow. Nice and relaxed. Make a logical cut here. Cross the cow, position the body. Now you see how quickly, I'm going to go back for a second. You see how quickly I was able to position her body? Let's see. I think that's the cow that maybe I might have went back too far. Each one of these turns is nose first. Then she brings the shoulder, then she brings the rib cage. Direct rein, indirect rein, outside foot. So I lower my hands, encourage her to work with a level top line. Ask her to stop, pull, release, turn, release. Okay, here we go on this cut. Watch how quickly I position this horse's body for the turn after we make the cut. Make the cut, go with it, position the body with nose first. Notice the shoulders stayed where it needed to be. That was pull release for the stop. No big old honking one big old pull. Better to stop them with 3 small pulls and releases than one great big one. That was really good right there. Position her body, bring her through the turn nose first. Accelerate and slack. I lower my hands to encourage her to lower her head. Nose first. See her nose turned in there to the cow a little bit? There we go. Position the body. Good. Now this time we got to go. The cow's really moving, so I'm asking her to lope. Pull, that was 3 pulls and releases for that stop. Slack. Turn. Stop. Slack. Stop. Then slack. Turn. Slack. Okay, so for most non-pros working a cow like this, their reins would be tight the entire time. The horse, they wouldn't be separating the movements, and that's why very few non-pros get their horses started good. Okay, let's continue on here. Nose first, hope. Okay, notice. All right, there's another biggie, a biggie. You notice, even though that turn was real quick, that horse stopped before it turns. Here's what happens with most people. They don't stop their horse. They just try to turn him. And so a horse really can't get on his hocks and turn correctly unless you stop first. You always stop before you change directions. And we're going to go back there. Here we go. Ride. Quit riding. Pull, release. Nose first. Stop. And then turn. And some people are going to say, yeah, but Larry, it lost position on the cow. The cow got away. That's fine. We're just starting here. It's fine that if the horse beats the cow. Don't let the horse think he's getting beat. You make no big deal out of it. But if you don't put the form and style on the horse now, it's going to be tough to put it on him later. You want to do everything correctly. You always stop, position the horse's body, and then turn, even if you're losing the cow. All right, now I'm just going to stop it here. I think that was pretty much the end of the video. Let's test it here. Pull, release, position the nose, hope, stop, position the nose, release. Pet her, let her know she did good. Yeah, that's the end of the video. Okay, so that's our cow working lesson. Now let's talk about how people ruin their horse for working a cow. You notice this horse kind of enjoyed working that cow. Very relaxed, very laid back. It was something that went smoothly. The horse was comfortable. Now, here's what a lot of people do. They'll take their horse that knows nothing about working a cow and enter a ranch sorting contest. There's a big herd of cattle. The horse doesn't know what the cows, he doesn't know what he's supposed to do with them, right? So he's a little worried. The rider, 9 times out of 10, can't read a cow themselves. So there's a lot of overreaction, a lot of pulling and jerking, a lot of spurring. And the horse associates cattle now with punishment. You can't be punishing your horse in front of a cow and expect him to like it. I mean, they want to get out of there. I'll get horses sometimes. An owner will call me and want to put a horse in training, and they'll bring the horse, and I'll put the horse on a cow, and I can feel the dread in that horse. He doesn't want to take hold of the cow. He wants to turn his head away from the cow. He just wants to get away from the cow. And so I'll tell the owner, I says, your horse dreads cattle. I got to get him over that before we can really make any progress. And the owner will usually say, well, what do you mean he dreads cattle? I've, all I've done is take him to a branding. Well, there you go. Taking your horse that doesn't know cattle to a branding is the best way I know to make him dread cattle. Think about it. Here you are, you're a colt or a horse, and you don't know much about cattle. You go to some branding somewhere, and there's mama cows screaming, calves bawling, people are roping. Your horse isn't used to being, with a rope swinging around him. Calves are being healed and drugged to the fire. He smells burning hair, all the racket and noise, people yelling and screaming. Well, he associates all that with cattle, because when cattle aren't around, none of that stuff that scares him is happening. So you take your horse to a branding or two, and don't be surprised if he wants nothing to do with the cow. I mean, that is just the way it is. And I always get that. I hear this so much. I'm just so sick of hearing it. Yeah, I took my horse to a branding. It's so good for him to expose him to all that bullshit. It is. It's not. It has to be. They have to be exposed to it in a way that doesn't scare them. They need to be exposed to it a little at a time in a controlled situation, so things go good, and they look forward to working cattle. When you start your horse on a cow, the very first thing you should do is approach that cow from behind, because the horse feels safe behind the cow. He doesn't feel safe going head to head with the cow or going towards the front of the cow. He wants to see if that cow is more afraid of him than he is of it. And so if you approach that cow from behind and that cow moves away from the horse, that builds the horse's confidence. He goes, oh, that cow is scared of me. I can push it around. And pretty soon it's fun for them. They like doing it. Now, there's two kinds of horses. You have your really timid horses that truly are afraid of cattle. They won't enter a herd of cattle because it's too intimidating for them. And you'll see people try to force them to do it. And all you're doing when you do that is punishing your horse in front of a cow. And he's gonna associate cattle with bad things. And then the other kind of horse is the real dominant kind of horse that really wants to dominate a cow. And they'll go into a herd right away, and it doesn't bother them. They want to take charge and boss a cow around, and that's fine. And if I want a ranch sorter or a rope horse or a reined cow horse, I really want that dominant kind of horse, that horse that wants to dominate cattle. If I'm going for a straight cutting horse, I actually prefer the horse that's afraid of cattle. That just causes the horse to have much more eye appeal. Makes one fork his ears. When you're in a show, a judge loves seeing a horse with his ears forked forward. He hates seeing one all pin-eared. So it's important. Now, here's another thing to be aware of. If you work cattle that will not move away from your horse, old sour cattle, you're going to cause your horse to get pin-eared, because he's going to have to try to dominate that cow to get it to move, and his ears are going to go back, and he's going to try to bite the cow. When you start your horse on cattle, you got to have cattle that move away from the colt. That's what gets his interest. That's what keeps him feeling secure. Okay, so I'm not going to rattle on much longer. This has gone on too long, but you kind of see how we're starting them here, and I know most people don't realize it. Don't take your horse to a branding or a ranch sorting until it knows how to work a cow. We're talking about being on a cow in 3-4 times a week for, let's say, 4 months to 6 months before he kind of understands what he's doing and is going to have some confidence. Well, then you can go ahead and take him to a branding, take him to a ranch sorting, and very little harm is going to be done. Then it actually is good for him. But when you take them to branding or ranch sorting, when they don't know what to do, you're going to make them dread the cow. And now you've shot yourself in the foot, and we call that ruining your horse before lunch. Okay, we're gonna call it quits right here. Take care.